one of the most egregious bills that I've ever seen. Rand Paul calls it abomination. And I'm talking about this week, something called the Omnibus Bill. Now, the Omnibus Bill is basically a hodgepodge where they just grab a whole bunch of crap, they stick it all together, and they try and cram it down so quick and so fast before anybody has any time to even take a look at it and even understand what it is, much less the American people talk about it and maybe have a chance to like discuss it and maybe talk to their elected representatives so they could go make a proper vote, right? Last I checked, the United States is a republic where we elect representatives to go to Washington to represent our best interests. And so if those representatives are there to vote in our best interest, we should have a chance to voice what our interests are to them through phone calls and emails and letters and so forth. And so it would make sense that if they're going to pass some enormous, like the biggest bill ever, it would make sense that it should follow like a process that allows our representatives to read it and understand it and get the will of their people. But of course, that's not what they want. Of course, they want to subvert the will. Of course, they want to cram this through so they can get all of their buddies paid and stuff their pockets full. And that's exactly what's happening. So that's what this omnibus bill is. It's an abomination. I want to break it down a little bit for you. If you haven't heard, it's $1.7 trillion at a time when we've printed way too much money and inflation is way too high. We have way too much debt, $31 trillion of debt. We're adding another $1 trillion or so of debt per year. But what the heck? What's $1.7 trillion more? Now, to put this into perspective for you, that's more than double the amount of money that was needed to save the entire global financial system in 2008. The bill is over 4,000 pages, 4,100 pages long, and no one can read it for a couple reasons. One, just to read it, you would have to read 2 pages per hour. 2 pages per minute, which is impossible to do. And you'd have to do that for about 36 hours straight without taking a break. And if that wouldn't be hard enough already, the bill was delivered at 1:30 a.m. in the middle of the night and days before Christmas. So, yeah. Now, it's not like they didn't know about it and they just got it done. No. This is supposed to be a bill that goes in every year. It's written in law. They were supposed to have it done in September. So if it's supposed to be done in September, why do they bring it in at 1:30 a.m., 4,000 pages, days before days before Christmas? And, of course, it's not a big surprise. It's because they want to cram this through without hearing the will of the people or having anybody have any ability to say anything about it. Now, luckily, we do have a few good people left in government who are like, this is insane, this is ridiculous, and there's no way we're passing this. There's no way. One of those is Rand Paul. He's doing that. But, of course, the Democrats, they want to slam this through no matter what. As a matter of fact, good old Schumer, he says that we have to get this through for the good of the American people. Now, is this for the good of the American people? I'm an American. I would rather it not go through. And I bet you that if everybody else found out what was in that bill, I bet you, I'm going to tell you a couple things that are in it. I bet you 90%, I bet you 9 out of 10 Americans would not want this bill to go through if they knew what was in it. But they're trying to cram it through their throats now. We have this back and forth. The Republicans trying to hold it up in something called Title 42. And now the Democrats and Chuck Schumer are now trying to file this new kind of amendment to that to try to force it through. They're trying to get it through any way they can. And again, all of this days before Christmas. So let's talk about a couple things that are inside of there. Like I said, my guess is 9 out of 10 people would not want this to go through. Right off the bat, I don't want $1.7 trillion or more debt added to the balance sheet that my kids and grandkids are going to have to pay. I don't want $1.7 trillion adding more towards inflation and lowering my cost of living. I don't want that. Do you? And I would guess no, unless some of that money is going into your pocket, which Probably none of it is. So let's take a look at some of this stuff. So a couple things here that are just insane. First of all, of the 1.7 trillion, half of it, or more than half of it, 858 billion of it, goes to the Pentagon for more military spending, the military-industrial complex. Now, just in case you didn't know, the U.S. military spends more money than the next 10 countries combined. So who are we at war with, and what's the threat? Because we don't just spend more than the number 2 or more than the number 3. We spend more than 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 combined. But yet, we need to spend more. So $858 billion is going to go to the Defense Department. Now, I can't tell you where that money is going to go because they don't even know. The Pentagon continues to lose trillions of dollars every single year. When I say lose, not like they spent more than they brought in. I mean lose as in they don't know where it goes. And, of course, they don't know where it goes because it goes into all their pockets. And, of course, they don't want to know. They've failed audit after audit after audit after audit. They said maybe they've never passed an audit. They said maybe they'd be able to pass an audit in 5 years from now. We'll see. So half of it, $858 billion, goes to defense spending. We don't know where that goes. Some black box that just continues to make the military-industrial complex bigger. But then we have $772 billion that goes to what's called discretionary spending. Now, the way discretionary spending works is you have your mandatory expenses like your house payment, your electricity bill, and your car payment. Discretionary is money you have left over if you want to go out to eat or buy some new clothes for your wife. Discretionary. Now, when we have $31 trillion of debt and we are losing $1 trillion a year, I don't think we have any room for discretionary spending. It doesn't stop them. $772 billion for that. Let's break some of this down. We got $400 million going to secure the borders of Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, Tunisia, and Oman. What about the U.S. border? We have an invasion. 5 million illegals have made it across the border, but we don't have any money to go spend to secure our borders. As a matter of fact, in that bill, it expressly prohibits funding from being used to improve U.S. border security. We have $1.4 billion going for membership into global multilateral organizations, including the UN. We're talking about like World Economic Forum. We're talking about non-government organizations. So we're paying $1.4 billion to global multilateral organizations. Probably don't need to do that. $575 million, over $500 million for, quote, family planning in areas where population growth threatens biodiversity. So culling the herd. Let's kill some people, $500 million for that. We got over $500 million, $524 million for, quote, structural racism, focused NIH subdivision. We have $200 million going to Pakistan for gender equity, gender programs in Pakistan, $200 million. We don't have any discretionary spending. Why are we giving Pakistan $200 million for gender programs, no less? We added $15 million for vaccine industries. We're going to need that. $335 million to prepare for another influenza pandemic, including, of course, surveillance tools. Over $500 million, $535 million for Corporation for Public Broadcasting, NPR, or, propaganda. We have another about $15 billion going to the intelligence community to increase their budgets for J6 specifically. We got $286 million for Title X funding, which funds Planned Parenthood, so we can kill more babies. We have $750,000 going to a Los Angeles-based transgender group to inject more LGBTQ education into elementary schools. We have another $8.6 million for the Pentagon for gender advisement programs. These are not things that I want, and I would imagine these are things that you don't want